First of all, they're heavily subsidized by the US government, and we in UK subsidize our own British aerospace. And most of the manufacturers are household names, like Honeywell, Lockheed Martin, and
you said
British Aerospace,
you said
yes, and
Halliburton.
Halliburton, and all these are household names, and they have many small and large manufacturers have come up to feed them, and they are big in themselves. The military-industrial complex is got also many other things, like how, first of all, before, if you have from the First World War or before, there used to be wars, but then the military was disbanded. And it was over. Yeah? And then if there was another war or something, the military was taken to. And
yeah, you conscripted people in, you trained people up, and you sent them off to war. But there wasn't a vast army just waiting there. No, this is true. Not a lot of people know this. It's very important to make that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
So after we had the Second World War, and then we had the Korean and Vietnam and the Cold War, and after that we had the present Iraq and Afghanistan war.
And now we have the war on terror.
And we have got
which
the war.
Apparently is never going to end, Vijay.
Never. It's a never-ending war. That is one of the ways military-industrial complex has been feeding itself. So it has become so big that it has been so powerful, shall we say, the gun lobby or the military-industrial complex, that even the presidents do not dare touch them. Yeah. So that in nutshell is military-industrial complex, and it has done enormous damage to worldwide. Like it not only it has started new wars and the war on terror, but it has been instrumental in damaging the environment. Not many people know. People do know the nuclear contamination of Chernobyl. They're well known, and Fukushima recently and all that. But what people don't know is that the military is the biggest user of petroleum in the world. And it's as big as the whole oil supply of Nigeria, a country like Nigeria. On a yearly basis, they use that. And when they use that, they contaminate the whole environment.
Now, these companies, we've got to get this in. And if you haven't read this book by Vijay, you've got to read it. These companies, what they do is, what they have done over the years, how they became so big was, they basically started taking congressmen and women and MPs who were retiring or who were leaving office, putting them on boards or making them lobbyists and getting them to spend millions and millions of dollars and pounds and yen and Deutschmarks and everything else that goes with it to lobby whichever government happened to be there on the day to perpetuate this. We need to have this military. We need to have this. Our neighbours are going to try and kill us. The Russians are crazy. They're going to try and kill us. And this is how it happened, wasn't it? This is how they became as strong as they've become. And annually in America, they contribute to lobbying costs, which I think amount to annually over $40 billion US. They spend on politicians to tell them, we must keep subsidizing these companies. We must keep building more tanks. We need more soldiers. We've got to have little drones this size that can fly anywhere. And it's never ending, Vijay.
Never ending, yes. I mean, the military spending last year was 1.75 trillion US dollars.
Say that again, Vijay.
1.75 trillion US dollars.
Spent by the US last year.
Yeah, last year is 2012.
And who wants to take on the United States? I certainly don't.
Yeah, no, besides that, as you say, who wants to take on the United States? First of all, they are the biggest spender, half of it, 711 billion they spend on buying and supplying weapons. And if you logically see what you just said, Richie, they have got the most friendliest neighbors in the world, Canada and Mexico, and both are democratic countries.
Both of them.
Yeah.
Even some of the South American companies who are not favourable to the United States, nobody could tell me that anytime soon they're going to try and launch a full-scale military invasion of the United States. It isn't going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
So why all of this spending then?
Yeah, for maybe 2 or 3 reasons. First of all, for the, of course, what we discussed before, for the resources. Secondly, for the hegemonic power, so that if anything happens in the world, they should be the masters, which means if they have the military, if they got the latest high-tech weapons, so if there is a trouble erupts in any part of the world, or if there are interests of the US companies, the Halliburton, the Microsofts, the IBMs, the McDonald's, if they are harmed, that's what the military-industrial complex is there for. Just a sensible person will say, why a country like US or any other country have 1,000 military bases in 183 countries?
So there's 1,000 military bases in 183 countries.
So,
and we know that Iran, funnily enough, we'll get to Iran shortly, you and me.
Yes.
Iran is only surrounded by them, isn't it?
And
isn't
China,
it?
even.
And China. China, again, will leave for a few minutes. But Iran, every couple of 100 miles around its borders, even less than that, there's the US military base. Yeah. And we're told that we're to be terrified of the Iranians.
Absolutely. So the question is, it begs the question that is US going to attack 183 countries? Answer is no, but it is there to protect their interests and also to make sure if there is a slice of cake, all their big corporations get that cake or the biggest part of that cake. So that is where the military-industrial complex is.
So when a soldier, and I'm sorry to keep butting in there. You can give me a smack if you want and I'll stop.
No.
So when a soldier comes back from Afghanistan or Iraq, and I've heard it said, I've seen soldiers talking on American television and on American radio, I've heard soldiers say, you know what, I never thought is that when I was in Afghanistan or when I was in Iraq, is that I would be defending the interests of US corporations. But effectively, that's what I was doing. I wasn't liberating people. In fact, it's the opposite. I was creating chaos. You know that this November was one of the worst months of the whole year in terms of casualties in Iraq. Another 1,000 people killed. And you know, it's only numbers to people. You know, we're so detached in the West that it's just numbers. So I'm in a car with you, Vijay, and it's on the radio. 1,000 people. All right. How did Manchester United get on last night? You know, it means nothing. We're so desensitized to it. So soldiers are saying, I'm representing US corporations. Now, 10 years ago, you would have been denounced as a conspiracy theorist for saying this.
Exactly.
But it's a fact.
Yeah, it's a fact. You know, even the US government and here in UK, MOD, our own Ministry of Defense, what they're trying to do is, when a soldier dies or die in a battlefield, like in Afghanistan, or US soldier dies in Iraq, or even our own in UK, we drape them in here in Union flag, our own. And then we have a procession going through the town and things like that.
Where the person is from, yeah.
Now, Mr. Defense want to desensitize so that the people don't make. They are trying to bring it that it should not happen. And because what lately has happened is that the military, the elites are finding that they are losing power. So they have to find new ways to control people. And the new ways are using the drones, so our own body bags don't come home. Secondly...
Is it cowardly, Vijay? It's been described as a cowardly... It's one of the most cowardly things to do, this drone war.
Yeah.
You know, you're getting some intelligence that there's a guy just inside the Afghan-Pakistani border. We've had intelligence on him. We'll strike him from afar. We're not putting US or British soldiers in harm's way. And if we kill a few peasant farmers in the process and a few children,
Yeah, exactly. And even weddings and funerals have been hit. And that is a fact. I mean, there's a lot of ill feeling. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ill feeling, and it's a sure way of creating more terrorists. Probably that is what the military-industrial complex wants. You know, we say all this human suffering and violence all over the world going on. But that is a way for business as usual, because now the declassified information is available to us from the 90s, and it's well known now that military leaders and Navy and other Air Force and other leaders, they had a strategy to have tensions between countries, or they used to have their own, the weapon manufacturing companies have their own salesmen going to one country and telling them your neighbor has bought that much, so you should buy that much, otherwise that, what we call the balance theory.
Now, this was perfectly demonstrated in a film that Nicolas Cage made called Lord of War. Do you remember that? Excuse me, and if anybody hasn't seen that film, this so aptly demonstrates what you've been talking about.
Yes.
Going in there, smooth, suave, sophisticated, with access to every weapon known to man. You know what your neighbours are saying? You know what the tribe over the hill is saying about you? You know what they're planning on doing? You need to have the latest rockets. You need to have the latest rocket launchers, bazookas, whatever. This is what's been going on for generations.
I think it's still going on.
And still going on.
Still going on. The classical example is of our recent Prime Minister and previous Prime Minister. Let me start with David Cameron, because twice he's been in the Middle East. Once he went recently to Sri Lanka and gave them a very good hiding and lecture on human rights. On same evening, he flew to the Gulf to sell some fighter jets. That's one example. If you remember when we had, in the height of the Arab Spring, when the whole Tahrir Square in Egypt was ablaze with, shall we say, vibrant with protesters and demonstrators.
That's how it looked.
He in that height, David Cameron lands there, and instead of meeting the demonstrators or giving sympathy with them or something, he straight went to see the military and sold them weapons.
And sold them weapons. And it's a fact. You can pick up your Telegraph or your Independent and just do a quick search, and you'll find out this is true. It's absolutely horrific. If you've, I've got a question for Vijay, 0203 714 2700. That's 0203 714 2700. This is incredible stuff. This is the book, The Economics of Killing. Who profits when people are blown to pieces in villages around the world by weapons manufactured by these companies? Who profits? Well, politicians profit, Vijay, because I used to speak a lot on my old radio programs about how these people have effectively destroyed democracy, because they supply us with the choice that we think we have every time we go to the polling booth, because they are funding every potential. So Mrs. Smith in Washington decides to run for Congress. She comes from a wealthy family. Well, here you go, Mrs. Smith. Here's $10 million. Make sure now, when you get elected and the House Appropriations Committee is voting on something, you make sure that you vote against it, or you vote for it, depending on which. And there is no democracy, Vijay. No. I can say this is, it's supposed to be objective, supposed to be to avoid editorializing. But there cannot be democracy when these companies own our politicians, all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. You see, the true test of democracy is that.
Can I stop you? I hate to do this. Josephine is on the line from France. I love France. Hi, Josephine. Welcome to the program. Hello, Josephine.
Hello there.
Hi, Josephine. And if I could have our monitor turn up in the studio, please, guys. Hi, Josephine. What would you like to say?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question about, consumer power for the people that are starting to learn about unethical behaviour of corporations. I was wondering that surely once we know we can start making choices and, for example, buying locally and boycotting people like Monsanto with their GM products, that we literally have the choice to make when we're in the supermarkets, etc.
Excellent question, Josephine. Vijay, we have the consumer power. We can stop funding these companies, she says.
Yes, indeed. We have the power, but if you take UK as an example, 85% of all consumer goods are owned by 4 supermarkets or 4 supermarket chains. So theoretically, yes, I would say we have the power. We can stop it. Like I've got a very dear friend, very famous friend. I won't name him on the program. And he is a climate change or green activist, very famous. And long time ago, he stopped driving. So I met him not long ago. He said, all I did was I gave my space where I used to park the car to somebody else.
Yeah, somebody else came along.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to belittle what you just said, because we all in the universe, all 7 billion of us, have a responsibility. If we want to have a caring world, a compassionate world, a violence-free world, a non-killing world, a world in which we can all live ethically, morally, spiritually, and that's what I think your question is. And then we all on this planet have a responsibility. And the responsibility is to speak the truth to the power. That's what I would say. Take actions whenever we see something is being done wrong. And of course, as consumers, we have got the choice of traveling by train than by plane, or saying to our governments, we do not want nuclear energy for our electricity, we want solar or hydroelectric or other source of energy. So we do ultimately, as consumers, have got the power. Just that I wouldn't say it's a big problem. It's a problem in the sense that we are not as united in our action as the big corporations are.